I start, I have two confessions to make. Confession one. Thank you, Ram, for warning that I have just about 20 minutes. He knows my tendency. I'm a big mouth, that I have a tendency to talk quite a lot. My mother told me that I wasn't beginning to speak anything until I was 3 years old. She was very worried, like every other typical mother. She went around to various temples offering my hair. If you remember the Malgudi days. And anyway, so that was a story back then. And now she's very happy to know that I don't stop speaking. So I speak quite a lot these days, and she's quite happy about that. Another reason why she's quite happy is also she doesn't quite get what I talk, and the very fact that I do makes her happy. My first public appearance and talk happened way back in 1983, if I remember right. That was a good friend of mine who happened to be the secretary of the Rotary Club in Prakasam district, Ongole. Surprisingly, the very first time that I stood before a large audience and spoke was in Andhra Pradesh in Ongole, Rotary Club. After I went to the dais, I realized I forgot to check with Mr. Sri Ramachandra Murthy. He had a longer name, but this is all I remember now. So asked him, hey buddy, you didn't tell me how much time I have. Then he whispered into my ear, you know what, Mali, you can go on and on as long as you like. We have booked the hall and the public address system for the whole day, but all of us are leaving in about half hour. You can go on and on as long as you like, and I have no problem with it. Next practices is attributed to Dr. C.K. Prahalad that Anand talked about. Prahalad, of course, did India proud. But I feel very good that I come from the same alma mater. Okay, but before IIM, he did his master's in Loyola Madras, where I went to do my master's as well. So very remotely feel good about. But Prahalad coined, or this is attributed to him, that next practices. So what he actually went on record to say was all the best practices came from the West, all the next practices will come from East. That includes India as well. And I think, and Professor Parekh ended our session saying that we have a lot of excellent practices that we need to document, share, and talk about, etc. So that reminded me of Prahalad's foresight that all the next practices will come from a country like India, and I think it's beginning to happen already. But in order for anything to qualify as a next practice, I guess it has to meet at least 3 criteria. There could be more. These are my homegrown points of view around what a next practices could be, or what should qualify as a next practice. Number one, it should bring about an orbit change. We cannot tweak and tinker with an idea that is now put to death, put to bed, and then say it's a next practice. That you cannot tweak your performance appraisal system and say, hey, look, this is my next practice. This is your next version of performance appraisal. It's not next practice at all. Let's get it right. Orbit change is the key word. If it doesn't qualify in my view as. The next thing is about make people function, that you and I are very passionate about, the fulcrum of everything. Right? If those practices do not elevate the people function to be the fulcrum, that everything revolves around it, it's probably not a next practice in my view. And third and last, it has to bring about distinct competitive advantage to the organization, to the business. If it doesn't, then it's yet another run-of-the-mill practice. It's not a next practice at all. So, and there could be more criteria, by the way. And I have written extensively about next practices. My article on next practices happened, so I have done over 350 articles in leading journals and magazines. And one of them was on next practices many years ago in Hindu Business Line, a full half-a-page article. And very recently, I also, borrowing from Gary Hamel, I did a little bit of work in terms of the moonshots for HR. I published a half-a-page paper on that in Hindu Business Line once again, where I regularly write. And I think to me, next practice in HR has got to be a moonshot, something very difficult, tough, but when done very well, delivers extraordinary value to the organization. That's what you refer to as a moonshot. So next practice has to be a real moonshot for HR. If it is not, then I think it's not worth calling that as a next practice. There could be several. I just wanted to, given the fact that I have about 10-12 minutes time left, I want to focus on about just 3 or 4. I wouldn't be surprised if yesterday and this morning, quite a few of them were spoken in different contexts and with different perspectives coming from different speakers. But please listen to my own points of view on those. Moving quickly on to those, first one is that it's sort of time that understood what strategic HRM is all about and how different it is from the technical HRM that we are all obsessed with. I think for donkey's years now, and I'm sure HR has come of age, by the way. I think we have good reason to celebrate. We are no longer under the table. I think we are at the table. We have a very significant role to play. Sometimes I wonder why is HR and HR folks going through this self-doubt. In conferences and seminars, we still speak the cliched subject of does HR add value? Is HR a strategic partner? And I have been pretty vocal, by the way, in my that it's no longer required that we need to prove. I think we have done enough to the HR profession. We have good reason to give ourselves a couple of pats on the back, or maybe we have not tom-tommed ourselves about, outside about what is it that we have really done. But I think we have come a long way. Earlier speakers also spoke about that. Then what is the missing piece? Recognizing what strategic HR is all about and how we can make a mark in that area. Under the very banner of CII, Bangalore, we did a program for the HR directors. About 76 of them attended, many of them from public sector. They were directors on the board of these companies. And a lot of them were vice presidents and other vice presidents and all of that. Good discussion. An area in which I specialize and I consult is helping organizations construct a scorecard for HR that measures value and not just the efficiency. But 90% of the HR scorecards suffer from, and I will talk more about it later, a bullet on next practice. But the more I run into HR scorecards, the more depressed I am, because they still talk about those scorecards try to prove why we exist and the fact that we exist.